The Prime Minister of Barbados has called on the international community to recognise that a world that reflects an imperialistic order, hypocrisy and lack of transparency will not achieve the mission of ending poverty and bolstering development. Mia Mottley was addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York, where she also lambasted the lack of progress towards Security Council reform and urged the G7 and G20 to be more representative.
She brought her incisive oratory back to the United Nations, a development champion who doesn't mince her words on climate, conflict and the rising cost of living.
Regrettably, there are too many people dying in conflict as a result of the economic crisis, and the hand that we must lend to life comes in the decisions that we must make to reform and to fight for peace, not to fight to sustain war, wherever it is found across this world. To fight for reform, so that our citizens are not made victims of poverty because of the triple crisis of climate, of pandemic, and indeed, now, of the conflict that is leading to the inflationary pressures that leads, regrettably, to people taking circumstances into their own hand.
On the lack of reform of the United Nations Security Council.
We believe that a Security Council that retains the power of veto in the hands of a few will still lead us to war, as we have seen this year. And therefore the reform must not simply be in its composition, but also be in the removal of that veto.
As Mottley called for international financial institutions and the private sector to do more to support development towards ending poverty, which is goal 1 of the SDGs, while calling for a global compact on long-term financing.
If companies, multinational companies, have contributed to the global public risk or benefit from the solutions for global public goods, then they ought to contribute to their resolution through a percentage, a small percentage of their profits, funding the needs of countries, whether it is in the issue of climate, stability and resilience and adaptation, whether it is for the protection of biodiversity both on land and in our waters, whether it is for the protection of public health against the next pandemic.
Prime Minister Mottley will deliver the Nelson Mandela Lecture in eThekwini this November. Sherwin Brycebees, SABC News, New York.